Hey everyone, and welcome to your favorite YouTube series, our favorite YouTube series as well. And again, I know sometimes people ask, but why, Matt? Why? Why can I not get enough of Not Another Demo? And it's simple. We are the security podcast that promises you no acronyms, no PowerPoints, and no marketing jargon. I have with me today, I've got Aaron and Lloyd from the Really Bad Security crew. No one knows bad security better than we do. And we are super excited this week in episode 36 to be talking with Devo. And not just because I have a Devo album up on my wall, but because I think what Devo's doing in the SIM space is really pretty cool. And so we've got Seth Norton and Bob Rabbit with us, and we're going to be talking about SIM today. So, guys, I'm going to pass it over to you. The first thing, as I started my intro using two acronyms, is I'm going to have you help us explain what SIM, the acronym, means, and then talk to us a little bit about why in a very busy security space, Devo was invented, and what sort of changes are you trying to bring to that industry?
Yeah, so SIM, like you said, it's security, information, and event management for that. So that's what you're doing. You're getting all of your cloud native, all your logs in one spot, and then using that information and data to, apply it to a security use case type of thing.
So again, like I said, I think it's a very, there's a lot of players in this space already. And so I always find it interesting when someone new comes along and they want to shake up a market or they want to do something different. So dive a little bit into what are you guys doing that's different than the other SIMs that are out there already?
Yeah, so with Devo, since we're a cloud native based platform, so we're able to leverage cloud capabilities. So where that helps out customers is a lot of growth, a lot of data. That's always multiplying. So we're able to scale with them. And then we're using that also kind of like our secret sauce in the background. We do extremely fast queries, real-time querying, because we're not going to index or parse on ingestion. We can do it, kind of happens later, but you're able still to query that data right off the bat, to get that relevant data you need if you're doing any type of investigation or other analysis.
I think it's cloud native. Sorry, Bob. I want to quick touch on that because it's always a conversation that comes up about what exactly does cloud native mean? Can you break that down a little bit more about cloud native and how you are cloud native?
Yes. So, people say they're in the cloud. Well, yeah, they can be in the cloud, but it might just be like a VM in a container. Right. First line of Devo was written in, AWS. So we were actually created using cloud technology, not just a VM in a container.
Yeah, and I think just to add on to that, as you think about that architecture and why talk to Devo versus maybe one of the other SIM providers, or really logging analytics, right? End of the day, that's kind of the underpinning of what we're talking about here. Cloud native is an architecture conversation, right? As Seth had mentioned, it's more than just throwing a VM up in the sky, so to speak, right up in the cloud. It's really about how that solution is architected in the cloud, utilizing things like microservices, right? Instead of everything monolithically being installed on a VM, right? Like in an old school way, you break up the components of the service effectively of the platform into smaller pieces that allow a lot more dynamic scaling, flexibility, speed, and time to value, and all of that. So really, it's when we talk about cloud architecture, you're absolutely right. It's not just a buzzword to say cloud native. It really means something, and it's, I guess, the short version. It's more than just a VM in the sky, right? It's a lot more than that. And I think the other thing to dovetail on what Seth had mentioned in terms of why Devo, on top of that cloud native capability, a couple other things that I like to think about is retention periods, right? There's a lot of different features and bits and bytes that we can talk about, but traditionally when we talk about log analytics platforms and specifically SIMs, there's always been, or not always been, but there's, for a long time, there's been this limitation as it relates to ingest and retention of data, right? And when we think about, especially the security space, always harp on visibility, right? We need more visibility. We need to know what's going on in the organization. If you have a platform that's limiting the amount of data that you're ingesting and then limiting the duration that you can retain that, you're thus limiting your visibility, right? And so again, we took the approach, utilizing a cloud native platform, that we want to take those restrictions off, if you will, right? So send us all of the data, right? We want to see it all. We want to ingest it all, build a platform that can scale for that, right? Because just because you can ingest something doesn't mean you can analyze it and utilize it in a timely manner. So that, in conjunction with a default retention period of 400 days of hot storage, meaning it's all searchable over that entire period, right? We're not cold lining things off after 30 days and you have to go do something really fancy to go get that data. It's by default, retained for 400 days. So I think that's a differentiator and a reason I think, I think Devo is a little bit different and solves that problem in an interesting, in a useful manner, right? Because at the end of the day, it's that visibility is critical.
So one of the, and sometimes the 800-pound gorilla in the room of any SIM conversation, and you mentioned like we want all the data, is the expense and the cost that becomes associated with a SIM. And I know a lot of companies that they're trying to figure out, it's not, what logs can we go out and collect from a security perspective, it's what logs can we go out and collect from a cost perspective. Like, right. They're having conversations of like, what's a better log for us to collect, because we can only gather so many. That's just simply all we can afford. So can you guys talk through licensing a little bit and how you're handling that?
Yeah, so the licensing with Devo is, daily ingest over a 30-day period, averaged out. So what that means, you can have a spike during that time also, but you also have lulls, and it'll even out to where you're within a license. Also, Devo has a lot of out-of-the-box content, other applications that can ride on top of it, and then other types of capabilities and functions, and everything we show in demos is included in that licensing also. It's not any kind of separate add-ons or anything like that. So customers like it a lot.
Yeah. I do like that, because sometimes you get pricing and then it's like, well, but this is for, 4 wheels and a steering wheel. Oh, you wanted an engine as well? Well, that's going to cost you this much more.
Well, I think that's a philosophical thing as well, as you think about, again, the SIM space, right? And where it's been historically from a licensing perspective, it's a matrix of complexity, right? It's like, I pull this lever and that thing happens over here from a licensing perspective. So try to keep it simple, right? The idea is just keep it simple. Daily ingest average over a month, you get everything on the platform.
So another thing that I see become a part of a lot of SIM conversations is, well, this works really well with Microsoft technologies. This works well with Google technologies. This works well with on-prem. This works well with. So can you talk a little bit about like the larger ecosphere around Devo, partnerships that you have, integrations, and how easy it is to integrate different things inside the platform?
Yeah. So kind of one of the visions of, with Devo and the founders was they wanted to be able to take in everything. They didn't want to have to select something or not be able to ingest something because of, some sort of format or anything like that. So any data we get up to Devo, you can send it, syslog, NetFlow. We're endpoint agent agnostic. We also have our own as well. We can grab those logs there, and any kind of API connections, whether they're SaaS-based platforms, as well as maybe even our SDK. And we're going to take all that information in, and when it gets to Devo, we store it in kind of like a raw log format. So it doesn't matter what that data is, we're able to take it in. Even if we don't have a parser for it, we can still ingest and we can still query that raw log. Integrations, we've got hundreds of different parsers and over 100 cloud collectors as well, and that number is growing constantly as more technologies come on board. We've got integrations with Palo Alto SOAR, a handful of other SOARs as well, and then all of the kind of brand name type other products out there, whether it be with authentication, identity access management, or anything like that.
I think one thing that Seth mentioned that I'd like to maybe we'll dive a little bit deeper on a little bit later is, Seth mentioned parsers, but it's also very important to understand that Devo does not parse on ingest, right? So again, if you think about the kind of the classic SIM scenario, you're parsing that data prior to it being stored and accessible for search. Devo doesn't parse on ingest, right? So we ingest in raw and store in raw. We never mess with the data effectively. It's always in its native format. It never gets transformed or altered at all. So it's native. It's always available, which is great for portability as well, right? Not that anybody would ever want to leave Devo, right? But from a portability perspective, we're never changing anything, right? Everything that we're doing from a parsing perspective and querying and all of that is done real time at time of query, right? In kind of virtual tables that we build, which is I think is key, and it's a key enabler for that idea of being vendor agnostic, right? And log agnostic is we want to pull it in. Doesn't matter what the format is. It again, syslog or whatever the case may be, right? Doesn't matter. We can pull it in its native raw format, even if we don't have a quote unquote a parser for it. One can always either be built by us or by the customer very easily within the tool, and then that's dynamically available across all your data sources because we never transmitted or translated any of the data anyways. It's always native.
Yeah.
Speaking of data, yeah, I'm assuming you do some kind of enrichment. How do you extract some of those insights out of that data you're bringing into the platform?
Yeah, so I'll jump in as well. I don't know if Seth has an opinion here as well. That enrichment comes in a couple of different ways, right? One is with integrations, as we mentioned before. I think one of the interesting things, from a Devo perspective, is at our core, we're a log analytics company that has applications layered on top of it to enable certain domain-specific functions like security operations. So that's a long way of saying, say, threat intelligence feeds, for example, right? You might have, there's several that are out of the box, right, to bring data in, enrich and correlate with your existing log telemetry, as well as you being able to provide and bring in your own additional sources of enrichment, if that makes sense. I don't know if that answered your question, but yeah.
So being that you're cloud native, born, built, and existing in the cloud, what if I'm a company that is, slightly cloud averse, or I have some stuff that I really don't want to have stored up in the cloud? Can you talk a little bit through, either how you have those conversations or any solutions or options that you have in place if someone just truly is like, we like what you're doing, but we have some stuff that we don't feel comfortable putting up in the cloud?
And that's always a conversation we have. And in the end, it may be that Devo might not be a fit for them if they only want just on-prem stuff. It obviously depends on, what kind of operations that company has going on, how much data they need. So, I mean, there's always specific use cases where that conversation can go deeper. But we want to have Devo give the best performance and everything for the customer as well, because if we put it on-prem, we kind of lose that scalability, right? That's kind of what we pride ourselves on, the flexibility and scalability with the cloud functionalities. So,
well, I think part of it also depends on, as Seth mentioned, it is kind of use case dependent, right? What is really driving that need to, like, hey, we need to have this data, in a specific location. A corollary to that would be maybe data residency issues, right? Of hey, we're a multinational, right? We've got GDPR, we've got all these different issues. Architecturally, again, we try to think about these things such that we can segment off data regionally as well, right? So if there's a need for it to physically house certain sections of data, certain components to be housed, say, in EU, from a residency perspective, and then access from there, right? We can do those kind of things, right? So that's not exactly what you were asking, I know, but it's kind of a related.
No, but it's definitely related. And I mean, I honestly, Seth, bravo to you for being like, we're not always the right fit, because I think that's, Aaron Lloyd and I have talked about it a lot about, vendors being honest about what they can and can't do and where they fit and where they don't fit. I think that saves, customers a lot of pain, especially if they get too far down the path and then are like, oh, well, this isn't what you said, right? And we've all seen we've all seen that. Let's talk a little bit about, again, being cloud-based, so there shouldn't be a lot of upfront work to get started, which is also another conversation that comes up on a SIM. So I'm gonna take this in two different directions. Let's say let's talk first about like what a POC looks like. So hey, I want to try this. Can we walk through like how fast and simple is it to start getting some things configured?
For the POC process, it's really simple to get things configured. And how the process typically goes, we'll hop on a call. We've got like 3 different flavors to do the POC. We have some canned data. If the customer just wants to, hey, I just want to be able to use the tool, see if I can do X, Y, and Z. Kind of like a hybrid, we'll have canned data, and then they can add some of their log sources. Or the customer, they'll pick 5, 6 log sources because they want to use their data for it. So we'll ingest it that way. The setup for it, we try to look at a 2-3 week period max for it. And typically when I'm using customer data and getting their information, with their internal processes and change management aside, I can have all the tools coming in, all their log sources, same day. Then I'll set up typically like a Slack channel, and we'll be communicating back and forth. And then, depending on log source, it takes a few minutes, get the API key, or they install the relay. It's actually very fast for the onboarding of that. And that's one thing I liked about Devo and, working here, because I've worked with many different SIMs in the past as a practitioner as well. And it took months, if not longer, to even try to get a log source into the platform, and then trying to get it parsed was a whole different story if they didn't have a parser.
Yeah. So the flip side of that question that I want to ask then is, because of what you just said there, Seth, a lot of companies have been on, say, current SIM technology for maybe 10 or more years. They've built all these parsers, they've put all of this work into this. Now they're looking at Devo, and they've made a business decision that they want to move off of one platform onto another. Talk through like what if someone is already using a SIM, what onboarding Devo would look like in the real world. How do you move from one to the other? Because that's again is another real challenge that I see people fighting with as they're making these decisions.
Yeah. So post-sale transitioning to Devo, we do have a customer success team. So that account or the customer gets a customer success manager, maybe even a technical product manager, right? Or program manager to help with that transition, set up that timeline, make milestones for that transition. Because especially if it's a large environment, you want to make sure that you're getting everything correct instead of rushing to failure. You want to get it proper, what the customer wants, and then have it working to their expectations.
And I think on top of that, something that's interesting that I've seen as well is you talk about some of the legacy platforms and historical platforms have got a lot of tribal knowledge there, right? Maybe you have alerts set up a certain way or queries, that type of thing. Our services folks have built some pretty interesting and cool tools to help with some of that migration as well, right? Because even if you think about it from, say, a query language perspective, right? Different platforms use different query languages, if you will. And so a query that was built in one platform, you might not actually translate. So we've actually built some translators there as well that can help customers not lose the investment that they've had, at least from an intellectual perspective, in that transition.
Yeah, that's good, because I think that is a scary component for a lot of companies, again, who might have 10, 12 or more years invested in a technology already. And, there's a lot of folks out there that are looking to move into a modern world or a modern platform. But, that's definitely one of the challenges.
It's a learning curve either way. Full transparency. Back to your earlier point, Matt, it's a process, right? There's,
Sure.
It's simple to set up the platform 100%. But then there's all the other work that goes into there, right? Operationally, you have to work out your workflows. You know, what I did yesterday is not exactly the same way that it, you know, that I did it yesterday, right? Or that I do it today. So there, you know, there's a process with any you know, platform switch like that.
Yeah, in each situation, company's going to be a little bit different. I do like, and this is an interesting thing, is when we first started doing these a couple of years ago, the customer success, we used to have a lot of post-sales conversations, because back then I felt like a lot of vendors were, it was like, hey, thanks for buying my thing. I'll talk to you in 2 years when we need to, you know, when we need to re-up the licensing. I have noticed that a lot of companies now have started having these, you know, these customer success groups and sticking with you through the life cycle of you owning the product, which I think is really smart. Something that, you know, we've talked about for a very long time. I guess talk a little bit more about what that looks like from a Devo perspective. What sort of cadence do you have of that team? I've got this customer success person that I'm interacting with. How do I do that? You know, what are the benefits? Like, what does customer success mean from a Devo standpoint?
Well, in the end, you know, it's one, helping the customer, and then, you know, maintaining that relationship with them, because it's not just Devo a product. We want to make sure we have and maintain that good relationship. And then when it comes to cadences for touch bases, it all just kind of depends on, you know, what the customer would like, right? So, you know, typically I believe is, you know, biweekly or monthly, maybe even quarterly. It all depends on how much work or, you know, what milestones need to be met at that time versus, okay, implementation's done, so now we're just going to do maybe a quarterly cadence or a monthly cadence. But they always have direct communication and direct lines of contact with that customer success manager also. So it's not like, hey, we'll talk to you in 3 months. If the customer's having a problem and they're not able to, for some reason, get it resolved, they can, you know, reach out to the customer success manager for assistance in escalating that and getting it resolved.
So you guys ready for some non-softball questions?
I wondered when you were going to jump in.
Well, first of all, I'm a little busy right now because we're doing a major integration, and more news came out today.
Did you hear that, Lloyd? You and I are not busy at all.
No, we have nothing to do.
You're not integrating 34 or an extra 34,000 people.
Yeah, that's right, true. Now. You have fun with
that. and you're not about to become a top 20. I guess not become. I guess we are, and new names coming, a top 20 healthcare system.
Can't wait.
Okay. First of all, Bob, good to see you in your new role. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Definitely your old employer's loss, but they're going through some changes. We'll leave it at that. And the Schul, it's been a long time, man. How are you? He's probably on another call, so he's probably going to stay on mute.
Okay. He promised not to say anything as the sales rep.
Promised not to say anything.
He promised not to talk. Yeah, right. Matt put the fear of God into him. They're not having the sales guys on this call. So.
All right. So Seth, here comes some tough questions, some real use cases.
All right.
I actually am in the middle of a giant SIEM enterprise logging project, so I have some real use cases to throw at you. And obviously, I mean, these would translate to some of your customers. Some of the biggest things that we're seeing in this project is around ingesting new data sources in new ways from the business, right? So now we have particular situations to where we need to take logging data that previously my leadership wouldn't let us to do, right? Like there's practices of putting, we don't want to put PHI or sensitive data in our logging solution. Well, actually having some recent attacks using vectors that let's just say were very interesting, new takes on old methods. I do wonder if like some of these bad guys just get together in a room and whiteboard, hey, is there a new way we can actually use this solution? So now we have a situation where we need to log sensitive data. So first two questions about it. Since you're in AWS, do you have a separate place in storage for HIPAA type data, right? And secondly, do you interface with tools like Cribble and others to where I need to mask that, right? So the use case that I'm going to talk about in our September CSA event is, okay, I need to take data that's coming from a source that's going to be classified data. I'm going to use a tool like Cribble or something else, and I'm going to mask part of it, but some of it I'm not going to unmask. So now I got to be able to push my classified data down to a secure location. And then I got to pass the regular data off into something to where like a Snowflake or a Hadoop or something where we're going to do advanced analytics on. So what would you do in that situation?
Okay, so in that situation, we could get the customer with a dedicated data node with that. So anything in that data node is just kind of their information for that. And when it comes to the advanced analytics you're talking about, Devo can do that as well. So you wouldn't have to have multiple solutions for that. Now, when it comes to obfuscation of the data coming up, we can do that in our relay as well, but we do integrate with Cribble also. So we have customers using Cribble to send information up to us. So we are able to, we obviously store all the data securely, transmission and data at rest. So yes, we can ingest that, store that data for them, ensure that it is protected for that. Because we do have our SOC 2, we have government agencies as well. We've got our own, say, GovCloud also. So we are familiar with taking in, say, sensitive classified information and storing it securely.
Now, what identity controls do you use for that? Do you,
Sorry.
Yeah. No, sorry, Bob. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Answer. Before I ask another question, let you give a second to answer.
Well, no, and you were going right there. So layering on top of that would be very granular RBAC controls, right, across the platform down to the data level, right, to where we can restrict and set role-based access control on data at a very granular level, right? So if you have certain portions of the organization that only they should be able to see, to view and interact with that data, we can partition that out from an RBAC perspective so that they are limited in view down to the data level, right? And then just to Seth's point, we're in process on FedRAMP as well from a certification process, right? So this idea of critical data and sensitive data is pretty key. Sorry.
Kind of becoming a big deal.
Kind of becoming a big deal, surprisingly.
All right. So this one, let me put a disclaimer for the listeners, because they know that my security program, we push the edge pretty hard. At AWS Summit last week, I was able to have some conversations. My security architect and I were there, and one of the tracks was around increasing the use of ABAC, right? So now we have situations to where we're going to be doing more robotic identity, more robotic automation, and we're going to have to treat those identities a little bit differently, right? But they're not going to have standard user behavior in a traditional sense. So we're looking at ABAC to really maybe start maturing some stuff. What do you have stuff on the roadmap to bring in ABAC in your tool?
Well, first off, I'm going to ask you what the acronym ABAC stands for.
Well
Pretty
done.
good.
Well
I got
done.
stung with my Seth, if we
That's
were
for
in
the
person,
win.
I would buy you the beer because I broke our own rule. Look at this. Good job, Bob. He's keeping us honest. For those listening that don't know what ABAC is, attribute-based access controls. So specifically, like using like metadata tagging, right? For looking for certain attributes and then applying access controls based on those attributes. Thank you for keeping me honest, Seth.
You're welcome. So in Devo, especially in our security ops application part of it, we treat everything as an entity, whether it be a user, IP address hash, or any kind of other identifying thing. We could just end up making that an entity for that to kind of track that behavior for it. Now that the ABAC controls I'd say that'd be something I'll have to engage on a roadmap, because I know we are doing a lot of operational technology, the information technology, operational technology convergence. There's a lot of that going on. I'm working with a lot of different energy companies right now with those specific use cases.
That's good news.
So,
that makes me happy.
So yeah, I haven't gotten to that controls discussion with them, but we are, coming up with coming up with new ways, like, hey, we can protect, your manufacturing floor, or these whatever kind of energy devices they're using. I'm keeping
SCADA, IoT.
Yeah,
stuff like
I was just keeping it generic because I didn't want to give
SCADA is actually its own acronym, so I don't even know that that's got a. I don't even think that's an acronym. I think it's its own word. But IoT, obviously, Internet of Things. No, the reason where I was going with that is some of the analytic stuff. And Bob, this is where I'll take a break from the hard questions and talk some good stuff about the product. This will help build into some of the advanced analytics stuff that you were talking about earlier. More specifically, I think if you have your infrastructure built in the AWS, and just going to Summit last week and seeing AWS themselves really start to put more time and money, resources into improving ABAC, I really think it does position your product good to be able to adapt a little more quickly. Some that aren't in that, if they're in GCP or Azure. So it's good to know. I wasn't expecting you to be able to answer that. Yeah, Aaron, we're going to be able to do treat those IB bumps on, as an identity using attributes. So right. I wasn't expecting that.
And Aaron, just for your knowledge and everyone else's, supervisory control and data acquisition is SCADA.
Oh, it does have.
I had to look it up. I mean, I did not.
Well, that's not the same. That means you cheated.
I wasn't trying to be smart. I was just trying to enlighten people. So, well, good stuff. So, fellas, I learned something today. I learned that in the world of SIM, if you want to whip it good, you might want to talk with the folks over at Devo, because she might be the girl you want. Ba-bam! I got two of them in. I knew that was going to happen at some point.
Dad jokes in one, not another demo. And Anthony missed it.
So, but very good stuff. Hey, for everyone that is watching, please like and subscribe. I'm going to put the little subscribey thing up there, and share this out, right? Bob and Seth, thank you guys for being here. Bob, it's great to see you in a new role, and we're looking forward to seeing you.
You look a little happier, not stressed. We've known you for a long time, and we're glad things are going.
There you go. I hide it well. I'll put it.
Seth, you got
Matt, I had saw him after CloudCon. Like, I was coming into beer distillery or leaving beer distillery, and he was coming in, and he had such a strange look. And I was like, oh, and I asked him a couple of questions, and he was very cryptic in his responses. Right. Now I know why.
I think it was the absinthe that they put in the drinks in that place, because holy cow. But
yes.
Seth, if you ever make your way to West Michigan, Grand Rapids is Beer City, USA, and is a good place to be. So let us know when you're up here.
Yes, I do.
I might just come up there for that beer.
Hey, it's a good reason to be here.
October, we got October Wing coming up.
Coming up. That is true.
That is a great event.
All right, as you can tell, all great conversations can just keep on rolling. But for the sake of YouTube, I'm gonna end this thing now. So again, Seth, Bob, thank you. Lloyd, Aaron, as always, well done. And we will see everyone for episode 36. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.